the last week of our Interrail journey, we headed further north to the Italian lakes, first arriving in the town of Peschiera del Garda by the famous Lake Garda. Our hostel was only 10 minutes from the beach, so we enjoyed a chilled afternoon sunbathing and reading by the lake, joined by this cute family of ducks. One of the best things about our hostel was the roof terrace, where we could enjoy the amazing sunsets, which will become a recurring theme of this video. It was a nice hostel, although we were joined by a big group of teenagers from Berlin who enjoyed playing loud house music right next door. But we managed to escape for a fun midnight escapade to the beach with old and new hostel friends from a long road trip. The next day, two of our new hostel friends joined Kathleen and I to hire bikes and go on a cycle ride by the lake to the town of Sirmione, on this peninsula with a castle, Roman ruins, and even this cool beach with large flat white rocks. We continued on, with the hopes of making it all the way to some botanical gardens, but the lack of bike lanes from this point on, the distance, the heat, and the quality of the hire bikes all made us make the sensible decision to head back at a certain point. But we did cycle an impressive 50 kilometres along the whole south coast of Lake Garda, and after this expedition we definitely earned a swim, and the incredibly picturesque sunset from our town. After a good night's rest, our friend Matthias joined us again to try stand-up paddleboarding. This was so much fun, especially since it was my first time trying it properly, and I managed to only fall in once. We had a chill afternoon hanging out in the hostel garden, and then by the beach in the evening, once the sun's rays weren't quite as strong. Together we made a yummy feast for dinner of salad, pasta and watermelon in the hostel kitchen, before admiring the magical sunset from the roof terrace. Now Friday night, a big group of people from the hostel gathered on the rooftop. Now the size and energy of this group was just a little bit overwhelming, but we tagged along and had a fun night. During our time at Lake Garda, we also managed to fit in a day trip to the city of Verona, which was only a 20-minute ride away. In need of a little alone time, I went in a little earlier in the day to explore the place myself for a few hours. Verona is a picturesque medieval city, known for its Roman amphitheatre, smaller but older and more well-preserved than the Colosseum in Rome. But perhaps more famously, Verona is the setting for Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. I had a wonderful romantic time wandering around Verona by myself and finding amazing views while listening to music from my favourite composer, Einaudi. Back at Lake Garda, we celebrated our final evening with Matthias, with a rather late dinner at a restaurant, and then playing the excellent game of Dixit until 1 a.m. A final sunset time-lapse brings us to the end of our stay at Lake Garda. But our time at the Italian lakes wasn't over. We took 2 trains and a ferry, transiting through Milan and Verona, to get to the little town of Menaggio by Lake Como.
Your heart will break into beginnings to erase. But something about me makes it all feel better.
I think this might be the best view from a hostel room I've ever had.
What I want right now. It's like the hurt you find and you wear forever, baby.
The water here was so nice, especially with the incredible mountainous scenery in the background. The next morning, we were kept inside by a heavy rainstorm, but luckily I managed to recruit one of our roommates to play the board game Catan with us, to pass the time. Later, the sun came out from behind the clouds, so we decided to go on a walk from a leaflet in the hostel, to a magical oak tree called Il Rogolone. The walk itself was also pretty magical, with plenty of wildlife and amazing scenery. This part felt like being in the video game Breath of the Wild, with a beautiful white horse in the distance.
The air is cold, all the strangers waiting on the train that could bring them home. And something about me makes it
Il Rogolone, derived from the word for great oak tree in local dialect, is 300 years old and 25 metres tall, and it did look rather majestic, especially after walking there for 2 hours. We got back before another downpour of rain, and spent the evening in playing with my new Italian playing cards, and having deep chats about life. On the morning of our last full day at Lake Como, we hiked up a steeper than anticipated path close to the hostel to get to a viewpoint, but it was definitely worth it for these views. In the afternoon, we were determined to go kayaking, but got a bit distracted by the wildlife while waiting for some boats to be available. Lots of fish. We didn't take our phones kayaking for risk of losing them in the depths of Lake Como, so you'll just have to use your imagination for this part, and my incredibly realistic drawings. We hired the kayaks for 2 hours, and managed to paddle all the way across the bay to a little secret beach, past this villa, which is famous for appearing in the James Bond Casino Royale film. It might not seem such a long way, but it was quite a lot of effort for 2 novice kayakers. But I'll never forget the experience of paddling through the water with such breathtaking scenery, even though these memories are only in my head. To top off such an incredible day, we enjoyed a lovely meal, finishing with an espresso to toast our last dinner. Then, in the distance, I could hear some piano music, so I followed my ears to find a live street pianist in the town square, playing some of my favourite piano tunes. Back at the hostel, we marvelled at the sunset with more live music from a guy who works at the hostel. This was such a magical way to end the last night of our trip. On the last day, we journeyed to Bergamo, on the way to catch our flight home. Feeling rather exhausted and travelled out, we sheltered in the McDonald's by the bus station with our big rucksacks. Luckily, we'd left plenty of time before the flight, as we then proceeded to take the wrong bus to the airport not once, but twice. I'll let Ainaudi's aptly named piece, Experience, played by the street pianist, accompany the journey home. We made the flight, and I spent a couple of nights with Kathleen's family before heading home.
Summer comes, I'ma cut my hair. Take a long drive, heading anywhere. Be dancing all night.